Hi BookTube, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. I am Jackie, and it's time for another tag video. So this is a tag that I watched recently, and it is an original tag. Although the creator did mention that that there's a similar tag created by someone else out there, and I don't remember what the channel name is because I did try to look it up. Like Victoria Reads or something is the channel that created the similar tag. So I tried to find it, but I'm sure it's somewhere. I mean, I didn't even know what it would have been called, so I'm sure it's somewhere out there. But this tag was created by Harriet Rosie. It is the reading taste tag. So, and this is always kind of something I had trouble, like, I know what I like, but I did have trouble, I sometimes have trouble if someone else asks me what my tastes are. So I usually just say that my go-to genre, which is fantasy. Like I just say what genres I like. But even amongst those genres, I don't like every single thing. Fantasy is a pretty close, it can be pretty easy, but there's certain fantasy like that I'm not gonna absolutely love, and but let's go into the questions. Okay, question number 1. Describe your reading taste in one sentence. And I was able to come up with my tastes are adventurous magical journeys of escapism, whether it's make believe or history. So, fantasy or historical. But I do also like, and that includes like fantasy and sci-fi. I mean, that includes like horror and sci-fi, at least supernatural horror. Like, oftentimes I prefer reading like supernatural horror rather than horror that's, a little too close to home. But yep, that's my sentence. Okay, so question number 2 is describe your reading taste with categories: genre, age, length, etc. So my usual go-to genres are fantasy, horror, and historical. And now I have been trying to get into sci-fi lately, but that can depend because sometimes like I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of like the space stuff, like set in space. I like time travels though. But I like sci-fi that's more like low-key science and a little more fantastical. Like it almost feels a little like a fantasy. That's probably why I preferred I got into Star Wars first, because it does feel like a fantasy at times, especially with the Jedi mind powers. Although to this day I still say that it's more sci-fi. It's a sci-fi. It's not a fantasy story. It's not a fantasy book movie series. It's sci-fi. And I've definitely gotten more into like 500 plus pages books. But I still like shorter books. I don't have, any problem with them. It's just sometimes I'm always looking for the bigger books. Like I see a bigger book, but then I read the description, and that's how I determine if the book is for me. But I definitely am kind of leaning more into 500 plus page books. And I like adults. I'm getting more into adult stuff. Like I used to be a big time YA reader, but then, I think when I got into my 30s and all, where I started to get more into adult stuff. I mean, I always kind of was into adult stuff, but like I started Stephen King early on, and but I'm definitely leaning more towards that adult literature, and maybe that's because I'm in my 30s and I don't always connect with younger, teen readers. But but obviously, from books that I still talk about, I'm not totally getting away from, young adult books. Like Ashes kind of leans more toward young adult. And I really like that one, so. But mostly I'm kind of leaning towards adult books. Okay, so, Question number 3. Okay, so this requires a visual for you guys. Question number 3 is show us a few books that represent your reading taste. So I got more than probably, I was trying to stick to 3, but I kind of went beyond that. So like this supernatural horror, it, most people, I probably only need to explain what this is about. So It by Stephen King. We have, oh my god, I keep thinking about, I almost want to pick this up and start rereading it now. I keep thinking about it. I maybe should just give on and go ahead and pick it up. But, The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. This is a revenge story about a guy that's framed for being a traitor to France. This is when Napoleon was trying to take over. And he gets wrongfully imprisoned right when his life is going really great. He gets a promotion at work. He's engaged and is going to get married in a couple days. But then his fiance's jealous cousin who's in love with her and wants to marry, and his co-workers that wanted to believe that he deserved the promotion more. And then his father's landlord, they team up and put him in a range so he gets framed, and he becomes very educated while in prison. He meets a priest that teaches him things and about the world, and he becomes much more educated. And then he sails with pirates. He learns how to sword fight. He becomes a count. He creates the identity of the Count of Monte Cristo and finds the treasure that the priest told him about, and creates this whole new alter ego, and slowly over time gets revenge on the people, his fiance, the man who married his fiance, and his co-worker just slowly pays them back and ruins their lives. This is so good and so much fun. If you like a revenge story, it is long, and there are parts of it that seems like, is this important? Why do you have to explain all this? But still, it's such a good book, and I'm so wanting to reread this. And then we have books like The Historian. It's sort of historical fiction, but it also has a little bit of fantasy, supernatural elements to it. A woman who finds out that her father found out the possibility that Dracula might still be alive. And it's a story within a story within a story. And it's just such a cool concept, and I love that the main character is an actual story, and then I get to live vicariously through these characters. It's just so much fun. I love the writing style. It's such a beautiful writing style. Like I talked about in my update video of what I'm currently reading. I'm reading the Weight of Ink, and both The Weight of Ink and this one have a similar feel with the writing style, and it's very cozy and immersive, and you just feeling yourself in the archives and looking through these, and just being so careful and worried about crumbling these documents, and just looking at these documents about the past, and going on an adventure, and finding out if the grave, in this case the grave of Dracula. It's so much fun. And then this is the first Kate Warren book I ever read, The Forgotten Garden. Has a bit of a mystery where a girl is discovered, this girl that was abandoned at the docks in, I think, Australia. She is taken by the dock master, and he raises her, and the only thing she has is this fairy tale book in a suitcase, and she is trying to find, and when she's 21, she's told the truth, and decides to go in search of her family, and discovers her family's estate, and she inherits this magical garden, and we have her story, and then we have her granddaughter's story, and how she tries to piece together what happened to her grandma, and it's just It's the first Kate Morton book I fell in love with, and it's just so, and it's good. And no, it's not like Secret Garden. It just bugs me because there's reviews I read where they say, oh, it copied Secret Garden. If you read the book, you know it did not. The only thing it has in common is there's the garden in the story, and it does take place in England, but it also takes place in Australia. So there, you know, if you actually read the book cover to cover, then you would know there's nothing in common. It doesn't have anything in common with the Secret Garden except for the garden itself and where it takes place. So the fact that you're saying, oh, it's copied off Secret Garden just proves that you did not read the book. This still bugs me. I still think about that from time to time. But yeah, it's so good. You know, it has 2 timelines. I love that. And it has someone piecing together about the past. And it's not like a police procedural. It's a regular average person trying to understand the past and doing research about what happened. And then we have another kind of a person doing historical research. That is the first book in the trilogy, Discovery of Witches, which a lot of people do compare this to Twilight because there's a romance similar, you know, that's kind of same. That's the same thing as Twilight, where you have a human girl and vampire falling in love, but she's a witch, so I think she's smarter and less, and a little more able to take care of herself rather than. Unlike Bella, is, you know, that girl's got some issues. Not that Diana doesn't, no. And it's this woman, she's found, Diana Bishop, she's part of a famous family, a well-known family of witches, and she's a historian, and she discovers this mysterious document and this manuscript that holds information that all the species, the witches, the vampires, and their daemons want the document. So she's on the run basically, and then she meets the vampire Matthew Claremont, who's a very famous vampire from, you know, when the two end up falling in love. So that's where kind of the Twilight thing comes into play, and they have to protect the document. But of course, their relationship's forbidden. Cross-species relationships just aren't allowed to happen. So it's kind of a Romeo and Juliet, Twilight type story meets, you know, I don't know what other thing to compare it to, but it's really good. I like the writing. I like immersing into the history of, you know, obviously history books that discuss history. You know, that always is kind of a buzzword for me too, depending on the history itself. And, you know, historian buzzword. So it's easy for me to think of buzzwords that, you know, than anti-buzzwords. Surprisingly, but yeah, I love this. And then I have 2 more fantasy books. Obviously, fantasy is my number 1 genre, so I figured I definitely have to show a lot more fantasy. These 2, Ruin of Kings and The Way of Kings. Oh, they both have kings in the title, and these are epics. I love epic stories and male characters that are, you know, have a good heart, but they're going through, you know, experience like heartache, maybe, you know, and pain and suffering, and they're just trying to survive in the world, and, you know, this magic system they didn't know that they were connected to, and, you know, and the stories about this whole, them, like, their whole home, kingdom or whatever being affected, and they have to, you know, coming together, preparing for war and all that. And it's just, epic stories is really getting me. So yeah, The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson and The Ruin of Kings. And they're both long series. I like that too. I like longer series actually. So those kind of are the books that reflect my taste. There are probably other ones I could have said. Okay, so next we have question number 4. A book you didn't enjoy that seemed like it would be to your taste. Which, this one I wasn't sure if I should pick this one. But this was a book I remember, because this was originally a book I read years ago, and at the time I liked it. But then I've seen the adaptation of this book so many times that it was kind of like, when I read the book years later, it was a bit of a disappointment for me. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't connect to them as well. I didn't like how the relationship played out in the book. I preferred how they played out in the movie adaptation. And that is Alice Hoffman's Practical Magic. I like the magic stuff. The magic elements in the Wiccan, the curse and everything, the curse on the Owens family, the Owens women, and on the men they fall in love with. I thought that was a really interesting concept. And like the magic, how it was kind of more about the Wiccan as a religion rather than, as just, ooh, evil witches, cackling witches over their little iron pot or whatever. It's, I love those too. Those are always entertaining and fun. But I focused more as a spiritual thing, as more spiritual and religious in a way. Although I don't know if I could call it that, So maybe I should just say spiritual. And I liked that it was about, women, of course, and that it was about two sisters. The core love story was the two sisters. But, I'm so used to the movie adaptation. I've seen that one a billion times that when I realized how different the characters were in the book, like, in how their relationship with each other, was kind of annoyed. And was frustrated with the book. Kind of pissed me off at times. Like, the characters, I just couldn't connect with them. And I didn't like them. And yeah, I love Scarlett O'Hara, and she is extremely unlikable and a horrible human being, and very selfish. But I still liked her, and I still had fun with her. This one, I just didn't have fun. Like, the kids were, her daughters were complete brats. There was no redeeming qualities to them. So yeah, I was disappointed. So I was not happy with that book, and I haven't read any more. I did read one other Alice Hoffman book, but was outside of that series. Okay, so question number 5. A book you enjoyed that didn't seem like it would be your taste. I actually had 2, but I don't have either one of them anymore. But I did still enjoy them. First one was J.G. Ballard's High Rise. And I've told the story before that the reason, my original reason for picking that is because Tom Hiddleston was in the adaptation, and there was other actors in that adaptation like Jeremy Irons and Luke Evans that so I was very intrigued by the story, and it actually really got me thinking about things. And these characters were in this situation where they turned kind of dangerous. And it's a book, where you just think about, what would I do in that situation? How would I act? So it was kind of scary in a way. Like, humans are the real monsters kind of thing. And it kind of makes you think of the whole movies and stories that kind of look at exploitation and how we exploit things. Like, I was just thinking about that recently because there was either a book or a movie. No, it was a book I think that I just watched that discussed that a little bit. That was kind of about that exploitation. And I think it's kind of a similar thing. So it was just a really intriguing read. But I also decided to donate it because I don't think I'm gonna read it again. It's like not my all-time favorite, but it's one I did enjoy. And then the other one, that was a book that I actually kind of liked. I didn't absolutely love it, but I did like it when I read it at the time. I mean, there were aspects of it I definitely did not like how the female characters acted. And I haven't read anything else by this author, even though the author is very famous and well known. That is 1Q84 by Haruki Murakami. Probably not pronouncing that correctly. He's read a lot of books. And at the time, I kind of actually liked it. I liked the writing. But there were aspects of it, like how the female characters were portrayed, and the main female character was just kind of boring and dull. So I debated about putting it on here. By the time, I remember liking it, and I liked the writing. It's definitely something worth, but like I just, but I haven't picked anything else by that author since. But yeah, I thought it was intriguing. So maybe I really shouldn't put it on there, but like I said, I didn't hate it, you know. Okay, so question number 6. Show us some books on your TBR that seem like they will be exactly to your taste. This might be debatable, but I'm been wanting to read The History of the Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire because I'm really getting into Roman history. This was a Steve Donahue recommendation. We didn't exactly interact, but he talked about this book on his March of the Penguins series. But this isn't the one he showed. He showed the other one, the more newer Penguin edition, and I did start reading it. Which I was definitely able to get into more and be able to hear what I was reading in my head when I was not in the car hearing the radio or wasn't like surrounded by a bunch of people talking. But this basically, we're given history of Rome, and I think I might really be fascinated by it if I take the time to read it at the right moment. So there's that one. I took off the dust jacket. This one this is The Eyes of the Dragon by Stephen King. It's a fantasy reading. He was inspired to write this via his daughter, Tabitha's the wife. I can't remember the daughters. What is Stephen King's daughters? Let me see. There's a dedication. Naomi. Okay, so this Naomi's daughter was inspired for, so this is something that she could read. So I did obviously restart it because I already read this once. I'm only on page 17, but it was kind of a fairy tale, like a dark fairy tale where you have this kingdom and these, two princes in there. I think they're going to be fighting for power, and this is kind of when we first meet the man in black under the name of Flag. He's a magician in this, and it's a medieval, fantasy story, so it's, so there's magic, and there's, two brothers fighting for power, and it's just like such a my kind of read, like just so much fun. And next we have Wilkie Collins' The Woman in White. I have another one of Wilkie Collins' books as well. This is a bit of a mystery. It's a classic, and I don't know, for some reason, like, there are certain genres that I prefer the older versions, like classics, books written before, in the 19th century or before the 20th century, or maybe early 20th century. And I think this is where this guy sees this woman this woman dressed in white wandering around, and he finds out she's an escaped patient at a facility and that she's mentally unstable. But yeah, this just seemed very I think that it's a mystery, it's a classic, and it seems so like very intriguing. So there's that one. Then we have The Master of Margarita, which has someone making a deal with the devil, and it sounds like such an absurd but so much fun idea, dealing with devils, and it just like seems such a fun like look at, and kind of probably a little bit of critique on society at the time, the Russian society particularly. It just seems so much fun, and it seems like it'll be such a fun read. Then we have Dickens is Our Mutual Friend. I'm kind of more focused on Dombey and Son by Dickens, But so far, most of Dickens's work I love. Not everything. Like, I wasn't that crazy about Hard Times. I kind of like Pickwick Papers. But it's not my favorite. And I think I'll like this one. Like, again, there's a bit of a mystery, and I think there's a bit of mystery and someone inheriting something, and it kind of made me think, the way Candy from Books and Things described it, made me think of Bleak House by Dickens, with the premise and everything. So I think I would like this, but first I want to read, like I said, I want to continue with Dombey and Son. But anything by Dick, almost anything. Like, he almost is an autobiography author, but not quite. Although he's a lot closer than, say, Stephen King. Because there is definitely some Stephen King I'm not going to necessarily love. Okay. Then we have Josiah Bancroft, Someone Ascends. First of all, the concept sounds so much fun. This guy, and the main character is a big nerd. He's just a big nerd, and his wife gets lost during their honeymoon in this big famous tower, which is like basically a giant towering city, and he has to find her, and it kind of it sounds like it has a very Alice in Wonderland-esque feel to it, which is funny because I didn't like Alice in Wonderland the first time I actually physically read it, but I am going to give that another shot. But just whimsical worlds and someone trying to survive in this world of nonsense and trying to find someone. It just sounds so much fun. It kind of also, kind of makes me think of Caraval, because in Caraval, the first trilogy, our main character, one of our main characters, Scarlet, has to find her sister, and or not Scarlet, Scarlet. Donatello is the other one. Scarlet has to find her sister, and it just seems so much fun and just like whimsical, and it also kind of has a steampunk feel to it, and it definitely seems my kind of book. And then we have another story about gods. So I'm currently reading the Vagrant God series, and this is Tara Sims' The City of Dusk, the first one in the Dark Gods trilogy, and the premise sounded definitely something I would be intrigued by. And the whole idea of these different realms is such a cool concept. Life, death, light, and darkness. The concepts, and like, I love multi-perspective stories in fantasy, and because that was one of the things that bothers me about YAs. I think a lot of YA books are written in one perspective, so it kind of limits what you get to explore about the world and what you know about the world and all the characters. But it just seems like such a cool concept, and like, again, another fun read. That's definitely feels like it's up my alley. And then we have another historical fiction story. Like, obviously, I picked a lot of books that I thought were kind of, and so far I'm liking this one. It's this guy trying to investigate the murder of his friend, and it takes place in New Zealand, which I feel like there's not a lot of stories that take place in New Zealand. Like, the closest we come is Lord of the Rings, and that's not even in New Zealand. It's a made-up world. They just thought New Zealand was the perfect location for the made-up world, because with its whole vista of land and stuff, it just feels like it's like a fantasy playground, and this is just really cool, and I like the whole looking at references to the universe and stars and stuff, like in zodiacs, and like the whole mystery of who killed this man, and you get to explore the natives of New Zealand, the Maori people, and just like the idea of gold at the gold rush. It seems like so much fun, and there might be a little bit of magical realism involved. I don't know. I haven't got far enough that I haven't seen any yet, but it's just like it's so smart. It's like comes off as so much fun right now, and And then the last two books that apply to this question, I picked two nonfiction books. So this is another one about the Roman culture, Suetonius' Lives of the Caesars, and I feel like a lot of people say that nonfiction from back then is a lot more fun and intriguing. It's not just stating the facts. It's kind of talking about, giving away stories and stuff like that. And it just sounds like such a fun little take on, sounds like it's going to be a fun history lesson. And a little bit easier and not take as much time as the decline and fall of the Roman Empire. It's just like this approach to history comes up, just sounds so much fun, and like, especially it's from someone who was actually there at the time, that actually witnessed it. Like, I think that's such a cool concept, which I think I wonder if that's supposed to be Julius Caesar and his assassination. Yeah, I think that might be a painting about that, the cover of this. And, it's a way to get a little bit more, which, like I said, I should tell you, maybe I should start, I thought about starting here, and then coming back to, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. But it seemed like such a fun history lesson, and, an easier way to explore and learn more about it. And then the last one that I think would be, which is the stripping of the altars. I love history, and I love, like, talking about history in a new way, talking about parts of history we don't explore, and finding out the truth behind history. And this is looking at the events that led up to the Reformation. And looking at the church. And I imagine a criticism on Catholicism. But yeah, I just think it'll be so fascinating to read about this, and such fun to read about it. But yeah, so there's that. Okay, let's see what to do. Okay, so I didn't answer that question. So now we have, okay, so the last question is, wait, there's 3 more questions. Okay, so, question number 7, that was number 6. So, question number 7 is a booktuber you watched who has similar taste to you. And the person that usually comes to mind is Jennifer Brooks. Now, there are some differences between the two of us, but we seem to have similar tastes. Like, she likes historical, and she likes fantasy, but like I said, we do have differences, and I've also, I enjoy watching her videos, and, she definitely is one of those booktubers that gets me to try different things. Yeah, so I feel like she's the one that usually comes to mind, that I have similar taste to her. Okay, so question number 8 is, have you always had this taste in books, or has it changed over time? I think the only change is that originally I was kind of more of the paranormal stuff. I mean, I did read, the Dragonlance books, and I really Goosebumps, and yes, Harry Potter. And I read the Charmed books and the Sookie Stackhouse books. But I think my taste has grown and evolved, and I've become more adventurous with my reading and trying new type of things in, epic poetry. And, I think that's the most, it's just kind of evolved and expanded beyond just the paranormal stuff. And like I said, the word that always comes to mind, I've tried to be more adventurous with my reading. I mean, maybe I'm not adventurous enough, but it's adventurous enough for me. Okay, so now we're going to talk we're gonna it says to tag people, and I'm actually gonna tag some people because it's a little bit easier to do that now, because now I remember to put down some channels. And now I'm a little bit nervous because I don't know, I always feel weird when I haven't really interacted much with these booktubers, but I would love to see them do this tag, so I hope they don't mind. And if any of you guys want to do it, any of you that are subscribed to me, please feel free. Okay, so first I didn't originally write her down on here when I was doing my practice document of what I'm gonna say in this video, but Jen from Insert Literary Pun, I think she has very intriguing taste. Steve Donahue, I would like to tag him because I think he would have some interesting takes on this tag. Middle of the Book March, I think I would like to see her do this. Gunpowder, Fiction and Plot. I'm trying to pick people that have kind of, you know, a variety of taste, or, you know, taste that, Bookshelf Bunny, she's my newest, book acquaintance I've been talking to on and on. I've talked to a couple times. The Bookish Princess, at Morgan Long, and Lumerous Libro. I will tag them in the bottom description, so maybe they'll actually see this. And I'm very nervous. I hope they don't mind me tagging them. You know, we've never really interacted. I've never interacted with most of these people. But anyway, so like I said, no pressure if you guys don't want, you know. And like, again, if you guys want to do the tag and I haven't tagged you, feel free to do the tag. It is kind of a fun tag, and I hope you enjoyed this video and you enjoyed your reading. If you liked it, please give a thumbs up and click subscribe if you have not if you want to know more about my channel and watch more of my videos, and click the bell icon, of course, if you want to get notified. And I will talk to you all later. All right, bye.